So my name is Barry Delaney. I'm the president and CEO here at SASCU. I've been with SASCU, coming up on 7 years now. I live here with my family. And then we have others in the supporting roles. We have the chair of the nominations committee.
So good you all joined us tonight. I'm hoping you're ready to ask us lots of questions. Some of you, I think all of you I've met. I'm Joan Ragsdale, and I happen to be chair of the nominating committee and on the board of directors. So really happy to be here tonight and provide any information that you guys need.
Hi everyone, I'm Dawn Dunlop. I've been on the board now for 2 years. Just really enjoy my time at the SASCU board. And in my day gig, I'm the executive director of Canadian Mental Health.
And then off camera, on the keyboard, we have Julia. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm the voice in the background. I'm Julia Payne, and I'm the corporate secretary. And so I'm a resource for the board and committees.
And then we have another director who just joined us, Curtis. We're just introducing ourselves there, Curtis.
Hi there, I'm Curtis Slingerland. I'm a new addition to the board. I'm currently joining you from beautiful Bella Coola, so a little ways away.
That's where you and your family go every Christmas, is that right?
I wish. Sadly, no, I live in Salmon Arm, but I work in Bella Coola on occasion, so I commute.
Very good. Okay, so this is our land acknowledgement. We begin by acknowledging that we are speaking to you today from the unceded traditional territory of the Shuswapnek First Nation. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land, which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improve our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. So this is the agenda. Our promise to you is that we will not go longer than 8 o'clock. We're going to keep this to 1 hour. So we're going to go through roles, the benefits of being a director, how we support directors who are elected. We're going to talk about the process and our AGM, the endorsement process that we have here. And of course, as I said earlier, we like to have a conversation, so questions throughout. Now, before we get into it, let's hear from yourselves. Let's start with Jenna. So Jenna, where do you work, and what brings your interest to the SASCU board?
Lots of really good questions. I own a local salmon arm business called Trilogy Solutions. So we are a complete digital solutions provider, everything from website development to digital marketing, which could entail social media management, search engine optimization. Pretty much our agency handles everything that you would need as a business to start and stay relevant online. And in terms of why I'm interested in this, Dawn had actually brought it across my email, and I thought, this is really one of those next steps that I'm looking to take. I do sit on a couple local boards, and because my business has done so well through the last couple of years, I feel like it's only natural that it's time for me to give back more. And something like this, where I can see the community outreach that SASCU is always doing, very much is aligned with my own personal and professional beliefs.
That's very nice. Thank you, Jenna, for sharing that. Welcome to Ken Rogers. We finished introducing ourselves, Ken, and we're just going around the room to introduce each other. So welcome. We'll come to you last.
All right. Thanks very much. Actually, I just realized I was muted and my camera was off. So I've been here since the beginning.
All right. Tanya, nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see everybody. I'm Tanja. I currently work with Community Futures. I worked at Community Futures for 19 years. I'm the business development officer, and I'm interested in being on the board of the credit union for lots of reasons. I think it aligns nicely with what I do for our own clients and their business and somewhat personal ventures. And I love what community or what SASCU does for the community. And if I was to look to be on a board, it would definitely be one that aligns with my community values as well. Are we frozen? I'm done.
I was gonna say, I can hear you, but I can't hear anybody else.
Can you hear us, Marianne?
There
No,
we go.
you kind of froze there.
I hear you now, but for a while there was nothing. Anyway, good evening. Is it my turn?
Yes.
All right, sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. I am Marianne Van Buskirk. I'm very happy to be here, especially on the unceded and traditional territory of the Secwepemc people. Some of you may know me through education. I've been in Salmon Arm since 1993, where I became a teacher, a French immersion teacher, and then a principal after I worked on my master's. And then I had children, and now I'm a school board trustee with School District 83. And right now I'm the chairperson of the board, and I sit on several committees already. I sit on the French Advisory Committee, I sit on Education Directions, and I also am the chairperson of that committee. And also First Nations Education Council, Equity, Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity, otherwise known as SOGI. I sit on the City of Salmon Arms Active Transportation Task Force, and also the Shuswap Community Foundation Appointment Committee, although that has now another trustee has stepped forward to say she would like to be on that committee, so I will step down from that committee. And I am also a referee in the school district for basketball and volleyball, and I am also the vice president of the tennis club. And yeah, we are currently working on our strategic plan for School District 83, as our former one has expired. And I have your strategic plan here, and that's what sort of got me interested in checking out what the SASCU governance side of things is up to. But really, why I'm here is about giving back. I've been on the other side of things, especially with the tennis club, where we have been extremely grateful to SASCU for all they do for our club and for other things in the community that they're a part of. And I'm really pleased to be here. I also own a consulting engineering company, geotechnical engineering company called TerraTech Consulting. I must admit, though, I am just a 50% partner in the company, but I am not an engineer. So, but I am an owner of that company. And I think that's about it from me. I think it's more important that we all hear about you and the process that's coming up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marianne. You're a busy person. You hardly have time to be with us this evening for the.
Oh, I do. I have time.
And Ken, you're retired, and a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in joining this board. And you can adjust it later, but your camera, we just see your glasses and the top of your head.
Well, all right, let me just see if I can.
Oh, there we go.
All right, can you see me all right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yes, thanks, Barry. I'm Ken Rogers. I'm retired, as you pointed out. I've been retired now for about 5-6 years in the North Shuswap, having been a resident there since 2006 and owned since 2004. I am currently sitting on the Economic Development Society of Shuswap, and the reason I joined that society is pretty similar to the reason why I'm interested in SASCU. I think that community development is critical for the future of our region. We have few tools that actually can be truly effective in that area, and I think that SASCU is definitely one of them. For probably 20 years, my wife and I were part of the Van City, so we know what the credit union movement is like. It is a different slice entirely from big chartered banks. It's very, very local, very regionally focused, and it's probably the only financial institutions that credit unions in general in SASCU in our area that really can make a profound difference in our community. So I'd like to be part of that. So that's sort of the overarching reason. The other thing that intrigues me is I spent a career as a chartered accountant with continuous learning. And I must admit, the prospects of really digging in and understanding the credit union movement, understanding the risks and governance process, understanding what the Act says, and being part of that kind of overarching area which governs a board is responsible for to ensure that it's acting effectively is something that intrigues me. It'll give me an opportunity to use some of my core background and experience and education and profession and complement that with brand new learnings. So, that's kind of the gist of it. And I thank you all for putting this on. It's going to be a very interesting session.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. We're now going to turn over the remaining part of the event. So we'll be led by our two directors, Joan and Dawn. Joan.
So again, so happy to have you all here tonight. Thank you so much for making the time. We really appreciate it. As Barry mentioned, please know we hope to be as informal as possible in a Zoom environment. So just raise your hands as you go along. We're hoping you have questions. There's certainly time at the end, but don't hesitate as we go along. If there's anything that you want to ask myself or Dawn or Curtis there, some more questions, we can certainly help you out as we go. In terms of the terms up for election, there are 3 director positions up for election, and they're all 3 years in length. We do think there will be 2 incumbents running as well as other folks for this election too. So we often get asked that question. And for tonight, what I would recommend in terms of as we go along, I hope all of you have had a chance to check out the website. Julia has done a great job of providing we have a very thorough nomination package, and we're going to kind of refer to pages as we go along and just kind of provide that additional kind of personalized outline of that package as we move through. So, it's interesting in terms of the benefits of being a director at SASCU, because many of you have talked about what I see as the benefits too. So I think all of you talked about giving back to the community, which is something that I really appreciate as being part of the board. I noticed someone talked about learning. And so this board has, for me anyway, incredible amount of learning opportunities that's benefited my personal life, but also my professional life, which I really, really value. It's a really exceptional team, both at the board level and just the credit union itself. There's a very strong governance training component. So it's one of those boards that really has good structures in place and training so that we can only get stronger. And I really appreciate that depth of training that comes. And of course, being part of a cooperative movement is pretty exciting. And for me, it's kind of cool because SASCU is known as one of the best credit unions in the system. And so you get to kind of be part of this pretty exciting organization. So those are all kind of some of the things that I see as benefits being a director. And I know when Dawn gets to her pages, she's going to kind of talk about those pieces too as we kind of move along. So lots of benefits to be on this board. And like some of you, I've been on several boards and really enjoy felt really honored to be part of the SASCU board for sure. So what we're going to do is the next part is we're going to go over kind of roles and responsibilities. They're got in your nomination package. This is kind of a quick summary of pages 5 through 9, and it's kind of what it's like to be on the board. So in terms of the board, there's 10 board meetings a year. They're usually on Tuesdays, as you can see on the screen. So certainly that's kind of the time. It's a little quieter in the summer than it is the other months. And some of our meetings are actually dedicated to training. So we kind of have some throughout those 10 months where we do some training, which is really a great opportunity. As a board member, you're expected to attend those regular board meetings, but you're also expected to be on committees. So on average, each director is kind of on 2 to 3 committees a year. And in terms of a time commitment, that's often a question we often get as directors. It's on average about 10 hours a month. There's some months that maybe are a little bit busier and some months that are a little bit quieter. There's certainly really thorough and well thought together board packages for both your committee and board meetings that you need to go through, but kind of in general, that's kind of the time commitment. There is an AGM that's every year, this year coming up. I believe it's going to be on June 2nd. May 2nd, AGM is May 2nd. I get that mixed up with the planning session. That's why we have Julia. And the planning session will be on June 2nd. So AGM.
June 1st of the.
Okay, so I'm going to go back again. So AGM is May 2nd and the planning session is June 1st to 3rd. There's also, in addition to training, some great meetings. We have these peer group meetings, conferences that come up on an annual, a regular basis. They're really great opportunities to learn from others. One of the things I will say is, of course, this is a governance board. So we look at providing that strategic direction, responsible for oversight. And we work with the management team, which does take care of the daily operations and business of SASCU, and it's a great team to work with. We often have some questions in roles and responsibilities around, can I join meetings remotely? And that would be something that I think we've got extremely good at with COVID. Maybe it was unintentional, but we now do have the systems. So folks can join meetings in person or remotely. We do encourage where possible to join in person, but that remote feature does allow for folks who travel for work or travel for other reasons to be able to continue with their commitments for SASCU. So that is a really important thing. And the other thing I will say in terms of roles and responsibilities is in that first year, we try to be really flexible. There's a lot of commitments and we look at times and we do have discussions on whether those times work for the directors on the board. So there is some flexibility in all of that, but there's just, those are just some general guidelines around roles and responsibilities.
So hi everyone, Dawn again. So I'll talk a little bit of the benefits of being a director and the support. So like a lot of you, I was looking at an opportunity to give back to my community. I have lots of board experience of reporting to a board for over 20 years, as well as being on lots of provincial boards and local boards, but I've never been on a board of a credit union. But I am originally a prairie farm girl from Manitoba, and co-ops and credit unions are the foundation of that work. And my dad was a board member of a credit union, and so was my aunt. So I thought it's a little bit in my DNA to sit on a credit union board. So yes, that's how I kind of came to the board. And for me also, it's besides giving back to the community, it's also been a really good personal and professional learning opportunity to be that. And the other thing too is there's lots of learning opportunities. So the CCUA, so really good. I've been very impressed with the level of courses and Julia is just a godsend in regards to helping you navigating all the different levels and the training. Also, the staff are really supportive. So sometimes I've read a report and go, okay, I need to unpack this a little bit and figure this out. And so I just highlight that to the team, and then I can have a bit of a one-on-one session to make sure that I'm reading the report properly. What are good questions from a governance point of view? Right, of those kinds. So there's lots of opportunities for learning, and like I said, support. So we'll have a really strong executive leadership team. Barry attends obviously every meeting, and a lot of the staff do as well. So there's really wraparound support. But very clear about roles and responsibilities, and who also to the I joined the board in the time of COVID, but I did know many of the board members when I came on. So everyone has been super welcoming and kind of taking you under your wing. We have talked previously about having a buddy system, but I don't think it's needed because it's such a small team that everyone just you kind of go to different people for different things. So yes, I talked about the credit union and achievement. So the CUDA, which is it CUDA? CUDA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there is some requirements of being on the board that you get your level A, you get your level B, and there's so many years. I would say is, it's good to, if you do join the board, to sit down with Julia and map that out, so that you don't go, oh my gosh, look, I have 2 months to get all my training. So there are some standard requirements, but as long as you sit down, but again, the courses are really accessible. They're all online. Like I said, I've taken lots of truth and reconciliation training in my professional and personal career. And actually the one that I was taken through them I was very impressed. It's one of the best I've ever taken. There is remuneration for being on the board. I think that's spelt out in the nomination package. And And obviously there's meeting allowances, there's per diem rates, there's mileage, so all your expenses will get covered. As long as you let them know. Some of us are better keeping track of it than others. But there is some remuneration that also goes along so that people's time and expenses are compensated. Did I forget anything?
No, I think
Okay.
that's great.
Okay.
So do we have any questions before we start through the election process? We're doing okay so far? Yeah, go ahead, Jenna.
I was on mute, sorry. It says the board meetings start at 6:30 for regular board meetings. Are they an hour long, an hour and a half? What's the length of
Great
time?
question. They tend to be planned for 2 hours. Sometimes they're under that time and sometimes they're over that time.
Okay.
So, but in general, they're pretty on target. So they are about 2 hours, usually is kind of the length of those meetings. There's a couple of meetings a year that are a little bit earlier that happen and they're well mapped out in the calendar, but about 2 hours for the regular board meeting. And same with committee meetings, they're scheduled for a similar time, but depending on the committee, it could be anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours long.
Excellent.
And the other thing I'll add too is that the staff team does a really great job of sending out the package. So there's a board portal. So there's a board portal, we go up, we see the packages. Some of them are a little lengthy, but that's okay, it's thorough.
Yeah.
And so then it's great because we usually get them minimum a week beforehand. So we can really have some time to read it and come prepared and ready for the meetings.
And they're always on time. I
Yes,
can't think
yes.
of a meeting where the packages haven't come, if not early, on time. So that's something that's a real guarantee, and it really helps you be prepared. Did we answer your question okay, Jenna, in terms of that time question?
Yes, thank you very much. So I have a follow-up question now.
Yeah, sure.
You said about 10 hours a month.
Yeah.
Or are we assuming, obviously those 2 hour sessions are included in that? And then are you adding in your prep time as well into that? Is that kind of?
We tried to kind of do a bit of an estimate. Jenna, yeah, you nailed it. So we tried to estimate just in terms of the meeting length itself, as well as, getting through the board package and committee package. And so that's how the 10 hours come up.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the prep time and then the education that's going on.
Right. Yeah.
Throughout the year,
Yeah.
averaged out to be 10 hours.
And I'd say the meeting times are set, but I'd say is when you read the package, I get to choose when I read the package, or I get to choose when I do the education center session. So there's a lot of, excuse me, there's a lot of flexibility of how you put this in your day.
All right. Any other questions before we go on to the election process? So again, the nomination package is really, really thorough when it comes to the election process. And there's several pieces to the nomination form. So you'll see that the nomination deadline is January 4th at 11:59. So before midnight, you need to submit your package. They could be submitted electronically. And if you've had a chance to download it off the internet or being sent to you, you can kind of see all the different pieces to it. But there, like I say, there's quite a few pieces. So one of the things you'll see in your nomination package is some emails and phone numbers. So if going through your package, you have any questions on any of those steps, we're happy to answer questions as you go along. It's a pretty thorough checklist. One of the things you may note, there's things like providing a bio, those types of things, which are important. But we also have a candidate video. And so this is done, completed after the deadline to withdraw. So you would put your package through, so it would be after January 4th. And then there's candidate interviews, and then the deadline to withdraw is February 1st. And after that, if your name is still moving forward, then there is that component of a video. Now, I have to say, I don't really love being videotaped, but Julia has done an exceptional job. So you don't have to do the technology on your own. So you come here, or we figure it out, and the video is taken for you of your time, and that is then put up as part of the package. We really just found that was a really good medium for people to get to understand who you are as candidates entering the election process. So again, there's that pretty thorough checklist on page 4, and there's information on numbers as we go through, which is really important. The other piece that is interesting and important is the candidate interviews. So those are required. You'll see the dates are between January 11th and 16th. We're really flexible as to the time. So some of you are working, some of you might be traveling for work or traveling. So we have lots of flexibility in terms of those interviews. But what the interviews do is they provide us with an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better and ask some questions of you as we go through, because I don't know if it's later on. I think Dawn is going to get to the endorsement process, but that allows us to kind of align your skills with the skills we're looking for at the board. One of the things I will say is as you're getting prepped for the interview and you look at that pretty thorough list of what skills we're looking for as a board member, we don't expect anyone to come with all of those boxes ticked off already. So we're looking, for board, just some of them, just to kind of talk about what strengths you might bring to the board. So we do have the interviews. Again, we schedule them hopefully in a way that meets your needs. And you can see the deadline to withdraw is February 1st. And then voting starts March 20th and runs all the way through April 1st. So there's both in-branch and online voting that's happening during that time frame. And then the AGM with the successful directors are announced on May 2nd. So that's kind of the process that it goes through. So the first big deadline after tonight will be January 4th before midnight. Again, a fairly thorough list to go through, but the way the package is laid out, you can fill it in right on your computer and just send it in electronically. And then we have the interview process that occurs that first bit of January. And then the next piece is as we roll forward. One of the things I will note is during the election process, and it's noted in a couple of spots, is we ask candidates that they do not, so we do not allow campaigning. So there's great, because the packages are really thorough, SASCU puts out all the information so people can see, but campaigning is not something that we look to in terms of this process. So your bio and your videos stand for your piece there. And I see, Ken, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, thanks, Joan. I'm just wondering how long after April 1st before the election results are known and disseminated?
That is a great question. I'm going to look to Barry and
Actually,
Julia, but it's
yes.
fairly quick.
Yeah, but not as quick as the municipal or provincial or,
Yeah.
like we don't get the results in that fast. It's about two or 3 days, Ken.
But they're announced to the community at the AGM.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You as a candidate will know before the AGM if you let your name stand. And I don't know if you heard Barry, but it's about 2 or 3 days before we have the election results.
Okay, and so the candidates will be advised immediately.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So as chair of the
Okay.
nominating committee, I contact everyone and let them know.
We use BDO, the accounting firm here in town, as our scrutineers. It's also their busy tax season. Maybe that's why it takes 2 or 3 days.
I don't know. But we do it according to the regulations. So
That's right.
Okay, thanks.
And then we have 20,000 members, and we typically get 8 or 10% of them will vote. So we'll get around 2,000 votes. So it's a very strong voting turnout compared to other credit unions in BC.
I just want to clarify 2 things about the campaigning that came up last year. So I think it says in the package, or if you have any questions. So I think you're able to share SASCU's feeds in your feed, but you wouldn't be putting placards in your yard. You wouldn't be putting buttons on people, right? But you can share SASCU's media on your social media platforms, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say is that, thank you very much for showing up and stepping into the ring and exploring of whether you want to run. But also, sometimes it takes people a couple of times to get onto the board, and that's okay. So if you're not elected, please don't be discouraged. It's about getting your name out there and having it. And then, sometimes too, we may have vacancies throughout the year. And so there's lots of things, but so don't get discouraged. We have great candidates that run, just don't get discouraged, just put your name out there again. Okay, I think I'm the next one, right?
yeah, I think so. We're going to move on to endorsement, which is part of that piece.
So in page 5 of the package, there's a little bit about the endorsement process. And the expectation of credit union regulators is for boards to identify specific needs that will enable our board to fulfill its obligations to the membership and to the regulators. So like we talked about, interviews and applications will help form the endorsements process. Part of it is completing the forms, having the interview. I can't really read that. So what does that say, the first green one?
Submission.
Submission and checks completed. So that's the first step of the paperwork process. The next step is the interviews conducted by 2 committee members. And then after that point, there'll be a decision of whether a candidate is endorsed or not endorsed. Even if you're not endorsed, you're still available, you're still open to run. It's just a process that we go through to make sure that as boards, we're doing our due diligence. But even if you're not endorsed, but that probably will not be the situation here. But it's just, even if someone's not endorsed, they're still able to run. You then do the candidate video, which is my favorite part of the process, but that's okay. And then after that, there's the election.
And I think that candidates know about endorsement or not by the end of January. Is that correct in terms of a general timeline? So that you'll know that piece, and endorsement is alignment with those skills that you see that we're looking for. So we're just kind of looking for those skills that you see. I can't remember the page.
And also really alignment to the vision and mission and values of the organization. We're really the trustees, the boards are the trustees of the organization. So we want to make sure that people, that members have the opportunity, but also we need to make sure that there's alignment.
So I think that's the end of the endorsement piece, which brings us to question and answer. So we kind of tried to pull out the big pieces and areas that were kind of stumbling blocks as we go along. So open to any questions, and I see Ken's hand up.
Yes, just on the subject of endorsements, if
Yes.
there's 3 positions open,
Correct?
is there 3 endorsements, or may there be 5 endorsements?
Correct. There can be, there can be 5 endorsements. Every candidate that runs can be endorsed.
Okay,
Yeah, there's no limit to it. We're just looking for alignment with those skills.
And they're not rated, it's just endorsed or not endorsed,
Yeah,
right? So everyone would be endorsed or not endorsed.
correct. Any other questions on the election process itself, the forms? Videos, what it's like to be on the board, time commitment, whether or not you get a really nice mug. Seeing if you guys are paying attention there.
Question that's not, I don't know if it's, well, for me, I'm more curiosity than anything.
Yeah, great.
Dawn and Joan, what would you each say are the one major benefit that you have found in being on the SASCU board?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say the learning. So we had a really great session the other day from some sort of risk guru and learning about risk threshold and risk appetite. And sometimes when you're in a career in a field for a long time, it's hard to get really good professional development. And yes, I was here because I was on the SASCU board, but I'll tell you, it was really a great session about risk that helps me be a director, but also helps me in other facets of my life as well, right? So I'd say that, and just, I mean, I think it's feeling proud that you're part of something that's building and supporting community. And that SASCU is really trying to do some work in regards to looking at equity, diversity, inclusion, and truth and reconciliation, and looking at the underbanked. And really, we have a different lens of how we do it from a community development and community engagement standpoint. So that's why I'm here.
And Jenna, I know it's, Dawn said learning, and I'm going to say the same. So you mentioned curiosity. I too am a terribly curious person, and I think it's a good thing. So I'm all for that. And I do find being on the board, not only are there professional development opportunities, but I learn a lot from the professionalism around the table. So I find it, I always bring up, I'm learning about what a credit union is, those strategic things, but with my work, I'm kind of involved in some of those strategic pieces on the other hand, but it's just the learning environment and the different views on topics that come up. So when topics are discussed, there's such a great talent around the table I get insights by that diversity that I wouldn't capture otherwise, and I really value that. I find that just really a great opportunity as a board member. You know how there's some boards that you go to and you don't learn as much from? You can give a lot to, but you're not necessarily learning as much from. And this is one of the boards where it's both. So you have an opportunity to give, but you have a great opportunity to learn. Oh, Marianne, sorry, yeah. Your hand kind of blurs in the corner there of your color of your screen.
That's okay, no problem. Thank you so much for the information. And yes, the nomination package is very extensive. So thanks, Julia, for that. It's very informative, and this has been too. I'm a strategic plan guru, like freak. I'm really like a nerd, I guess. I'm really all about strategic plans because that's what we do at the school district. And I see that your plan is 2021 to 2024. And I'm just wondering if you're feeling that you're on track. I've already heard tonight that you're hitting some of those, those bullets, some of those values that the mission and the values that you have, that you've talked about. I mean, I'm seeing just sort of the general bullets. I haven't seen the real deep dive of your strategic plan yet, but I'm wondering if you're feeling like you're on track, like it's sort of your recipe for the next couple of years. So how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a number of us are involved in strategic planning and those kinds of things. Yes, absolutely, we're on track. One of the great things about SASCU is you'll notice the way the strategic plan is designed. There's very clear targets. They are discussed on a regular, in actually a variety of ways, either at our board meeting and at our committee level meetings. So there's a lot of work that goes directly towards our strategic plan, and it is definitely guide our work for sure. And it's strong and we're on target. Yes. That's my sense.
And I would add to that before I throw it to Barry is that at least my opinion is strategic plans are great, but who would have known that we would have a pandemic or the financial situation that we're in? So yes, we have a plan, but we're also talking of what's happening in the world around us and how do we nimble and flexible when all these new things are being thrown at us at different spots. So I think, yes, we're on target for the plan. It gets talked about all the time, but I also think with winds of change and stuff happening, we're open to tweaking or shifting as needed. But I'll throw it to Barry to answer as well.
Yeah, we're on track, and I would say that one of the things that's interesting about a credit union board is under the legislation that we operate in BC is that we're not allowed to have a director that works that currently works at a bank or currently works in our industry of the credit union world. And I think there's some wisdom in that because there's nobody around the board table where they say, I already know why you're doing that, Barry. Everybody needs to hear us management explain why we're doing that. And then we get all these great questions seeking to understand. And it provides the diversity of thought, actually strengthens things like our strategic plan, because we're having really good quality discussions about things that I take for granted sometimes because it's just where I've always worked. And then where the conversations go, it's often surprising to me and how much better the end result is, often referenced finally in the strategic plan. So I'm sure you see that too in all of you where you've worked and having that diversity of thought.
Great, thank you so much.
Ken.
Yeah, I'm just curious, Barry, I assume that you would attend every board meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, is there anyone else from your staff that would routinely, sit on the board meeting?
Yes, it would be all my direct reports. So it would be the executive management team. So I have 6 direct reports. So okay. 5 of them are vice presidents, and then one of them is our corporate secretary, Julia. They're all there.
So there could be 15 people in the room.
Yes.
9 to 6. Yeah, there could be occasionally 15 people. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks.
And then at the committee level, not all of the management team would necessarily come. The different committees have different folks on it from SASCU, depending on the topic area.
I find that it's very helpful having the executive team in the boardroom. Often I don't know the detailed answer, but one of my colleagues will, and we can get that satisfied right there. Also, by them being in the boardroom, they get to hear the tone around a certain issue. Is the tone a serious tone? Is the tone, just information only kind of tone? Like, it would be hard for me the next day to meet with them and explain what happened. So I just prefer having them in the room.
Mhm.
The other thing I'll add too is what I also really appreciate is staff are there or management is there as a resource that we ask good questions that will add it, but it's very much a board meeting, right? It's I appreciate that. That's been a learning for me is that staff are there to answer questions or clarify things, but the meeting is not run by staff. It's very much a board meeting with staff there to support the board doing their work.
Other questions?
I think they're all frozen, Joan.
So like I said, the website, so as we kind of go along, the website is a great tool. There's some strategic plans, those types of things, of course, the nomination package. I will highlight again that, for example, my information, email and phone, along with others is on there, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have as you go along at any time. So please, well, maybe not any time, but most times. So please don't hesitate to give me a shout or send out an email. Happy to answer questions. And I really just want to really encourage you. I hope tonight is more encouraging than discouraging. We're out there to say this. There is a process for sure, but we want to make it as transparent and as easy as possible for you to follow. And I really hope you'll all strongly consider putting your names forward. It really is an exceptional board, made exceptional by great folks like yourselves being willing to put your names forward and put that commitment in. So again, to strongly encourage that. And I'm not sure if we have any other questions before we close out. Any other questions that you guys have that are last minute? Barry? Dawn? Julia? Okay, so if we've answered your questions, we look forward to seeing packages come our way.
Have a good holiday next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much for this
Night,
information
everyone.
session. It was great. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank